Alright, so this is the prologue to the skimboarding podcast. Also functioning as a microphone test for now. Just a solo rant about my background in skimboarding. I first got a wooden skimboard when I was 11 or 12 in either 2001 or 2002. No exposure to it previously. It was a one-off birthday gift, and I don't think I didn't know about it or ask for it. It was kind of a random guess, but ended up working out pretty well, obviously. So I started skimboarding. One of my friends also got a wood board and started skimboarding. As I took to it, my older brother, who's a surfer, had a friend who actually knew about skimboarding. And as soon as they saw that I could ride the wood board, they advised that I get a better board. And so he just told me, you've learned all you can on the wood board, and you can get a foam board now, and that'll help you progress. But being poor, my idea that I was raised with was, okay, I'll buy a foam board and I'll get the cheapest one I can find, which was a Zap wedge that was still too small for me at the time. And so I get that board and I bring it to my brother's friend and say, nice, I got it, look, the foam board, I did what you said. And he went, no, that's, you kind of fucked that up. That board's too small for you. But finances being what they were, I still stuck with that board for about a year or two as I was progressing. And once I started riding that board and learning how to actually skim out a little bit, as much as I could with that type of board, I went on my first Laguna trip to Aliso to see the contest. And I'm from Los Angeles, and it might be Southern California, but it's very different because we don't have the cliffside beaches. The beaches are not steep. We're in a bay, so we don't catch a lot of swell. It's kind of an underwhelming experience for both surfing and skimboarding. So Aliso was a little culture shock. Just being used to kind of hitting whitewash, and then all of a sudden it's super steep beach, super fast. If you run into the whitewash, you actually get injured, as opposed to Los Angeles, where that's totally fine. I mean, you just can't skim straight into Laguna whitewash. You're going to take your licking on that. So that just blew me away. Seeing all the pros blew me away. And I had that demoralizing feeling of being out of my element, but that clearly fueled the curiosity to know that everything I had done was essentially not wrong, but I just hadn't seen all of skimboarding. So I think that same year I go to the Ventura contest and actually enter. Ventura is a lot nicer typically than Laguna as far as the learning curve. I'm still way out of my element. I, of course, lose the heat, although my memory is pretty spotty, but I remember winning stuff or something, getting a goodie bag. I'm not sure if they were just being nice and gave me one, or maybe maybe it was a single heat. That was very much possible at the Ventura contest. So you get 4th place or whatever, and they give you a traction pad and a t-shirt. And that was fine by me. That was also very demoralizing, but again, just fueled everything more. And then I think I did another event with that board still. I did a 9th Street event with that Zap wedge. At this point, it's really becoming apparent that I'm outgrowing this board, not just physically, but skill-wise. Because all I can really do is hit a wave or do like an air or a shove it. I'm really not riding waves if the board doesn't float. So the 9th Street event, again, lose whatever happened, I don't remember. Although I do remember that was my first heat skimming against Sam Stinnett at the time. I don't remember if we're the same age or if I'm slightly older. Sam was really small then, but good lord, he was a nightmare for that amateur. He was always in my age group, I think. That amateur division was just destroyed by him. He was clearly the next Bill Bryan by age 5 or whatever. Everybody knew. So that was the last event I was going to do like that. Time had passed, and I had kind of convinced, I guess, for the next birthday to get a real board. And I ended up getting a Victoria Ultravac that was actually my size. Of course, the problem was that E-glass construction on those old Ultravacs was pretty bad. I felt like the entire thing delambed, nose to tail. That thing had dents everywhere, dents, dings, just holes. But I skinned the life out of that thing, and that was, once you get that real board and start really skimming, then you can't go back. You know, it might have been a hobby up till that point, and then all of a sudden, that was it. With the real board, I started doing the contests, becoming a better skimboarder, actually doing well. So eventually we try to go to Ventura regularly. I forget if this was at a contest or just a normal day. But moving forward, I sort of get known basically as like one of the few skimmers from Los Angeles. And the crew for LA they go to Malibu and Ventura, because Laguna and Newport is sort of Orange County territory. So if you're in the general LA area, you instead go north to Malibu, Ventura, where a lot of the slot stick guys were. And at the time, I met a guy named Dave who was shaping boards under the name Blitzkrieg at the time. And being sort of a local LA skimmer and a young guy, he kind of extended a hand out. I tried some boards while we were at Deer Creek, and I think he proposed sponsoring at the time. Again, my memory is pretty shit for all of this time, but so I accept the sponsorship of Blitzkrieg, and he sends me home with one of his spares. And these boards were really cool. And he was doing rail channels at the time. The art was really good. The first board that he actually shaped for me specifically was really sturdy, real stiff, nice and solid. And he was really making some great boards at the time. So I started writing for him, and getting better and better, and time moves on, and at this time I'm maybe 14, maybe 15, 14 or 15. So I'm riding for him. It's a local company in Ventura. There's not really doing much. I think maybe I competed in the Deer Creek event and maybe paid for my contest fee or something, which was awesome for me at the time. And then for the next board after that, I did my own artwork, and I was a little dickhead rubbing it in everyone's face. Look at my artwork at the time, because pros were starting to have models with companies like Exile and Victoria. And the big thing was, I mean, all these boards were like shaped the same. The big thing was they had artwork that either they did or they approved of a friend doing or something. So as a grommet, I thought I would just be real cool and do my own artwork, and other people could buy that board as well, which never happened. But unfortunately, that board, the first one I got, was seemed like a rushed board. He was getting busier and busier, I think, in personal life, and whatever board orders he has, he's fallen behind on. So a paid order is going to take a backseat to a team rider order. I'm assuming I still had the other board at the time. So I eventually get the board out rushed, and I think it snaps in like 2-3 months. It felt totally different. He used different materials from the first board. And it kind of seemed like writing on the wall was already clear that he wasn't going to be able to take the company further. So I think at this point I'm out of board. I guess whenever I got the new board, that means I would give whatever board I had back to him so he can resell it at some point. So seeing how this is going, I'm kind of like, oh, well, I want to try. I need a board for now, and then I want to try other boards. So in the meantime, I buy a really cheap Victoria E-glass construction, and it snaps in maybe 2 months, probably not even 3, 2 max. And financially, this is a bit of a problem. I mean, obviously, it's my fault for trying to cheap out on the board. And you give me pay for, and all I did was slam it into the lip of a wave, and it completely buckles down the middle. So I'm out that money. I bought that from a surf shop, not Victoria itself. I don't think I had any chance to return it or complain or whatever. I knew what I did anyways. So then I look for used Exiles, and I buy a red Carbon Exile from the Skim Online message boards, I think, and that was a really good board, hybrid shape. Carbon Exiles last forever. But before I even put maybe a year into it, I meet another Dave from Northern California, San Francisco area. This guy is making boards under the name Square. The nose and tail are both squashed, so the outline is squared out. And it almost became a joke or a meme just because of the look. It kind of seemed like a gimmicky thing, but once people started getting their hands on the boards, it was clear it was far from a gimmick. He was I don't know if he did carbon. He was doing Kevlar construction, squash nose tail, step down rails. So the entire board is a 3/4 core. The rails have a cut in the side so that your turning edge operates more like a 1/2 inch or 5/8 inch rail. And he was producing texture decks that were just better than everybody else's texture deck. It wasn't like the Exile texture deck, which was kind of just had like a grain to it. That was for glassing purposes, essentially. It shaved weight. This was different. If anything, it might have added weight. It was actually a like sandy feeling textured deck, like really fine sandpaper, and it actually worked as intended. So I meet him probably online before, but my first memory is the Balboa contest, and I want to say he sent me home with a spare, but I don't remember. We might have just talked, and then he sent me a spare later, and we started drafts on the first board for me to go home with. And this was going to be another sponsorship from a local, not local to me, but a smaller shaper who was really doing awesome things at the time. Also, San Francisco has a really great community. So, much like the Ventura community, but arguably better, and I love supporting anybody coming from that area. So we drop a board. It's this awesome, typical square shape like I explained in turquoise, and I think I got it right before Christmas. I'm not sure what the year was. I could guess 16 or 17 years old, 2006, 2007, something like that. And I start writing it no wax, no traction pad at first, and I'm just writing it like a normal board, if anything better. And it really is great. And I eventually add the rear traction pad because I wanted the arch, not having the arch, considering most of my skimboarding was trick based because I don't live in an area with waves. So I got tail pad and got the arch going, and then I'm sure later I started waxing it because that texture deck's not going to last forever. I'm sure it wore down, and I eventually waxed it. And unfortunately, I don't have any of my old boards, which is a real bummer. They either broke, and I'm not sure where they would be now, maybe in the trash since I moved houses, or if they weren't broken, they go back to the original shaper, or if I was allowed to sell them myself, they would be sold because money was hard coming all of my life. So that board was awesome, and I don't think I broke that one. It was a bit small. I'm probably still growing at this point a little bit, but I also just wanted bigger boards because that was kind of becoming popular at the time. So we drop another board. This is just basic white, another Kevlar construction, nothing different. He's experimenting with shapes, different normal pin nose, pin tail, fish tail. I just want the square because I'm doing tech tricks anyways, and I really like the way it feels on the release when you release a big spin or a 360, shove it out of the water. It releases fast and it pops because of that squash tail. So I get the whiteboard, and this thing's even better than the last one. There were some subtle differences. I actually did a tail pad with no arch and only wax on the front, sort of Corey Ryan style. And that was probably I guess you could say, the time I took skimboarding, the actual act of skimboarding, most seriously. And I skimmed pretty well on that thing. I missed that board. That's another board. I don't know what happened to it. And I think eventually I might have broken it, because I know we eventually, I think, moved on to another board. We're going to make one, or I was using a spare for funsies. I think he let me borrow a 1-inch. He made a 1-inch thick one, and that was fun, interesting, different. If I went up north, it was great, because some of those waves cater to a thick 1-inch board. And I think at about this time, I start a blog, a skimboarding website, and my only intention was to post videos. Post the good videos. At the time, people actually used Vimeo, so there's YouTube and Vimeo. And skimboarding was more popular, so there's a lot of content coming out, and a lot of it is bad. And people would post the better ones to Skim Online. And all I did with this blog was just repost the videos that were good and put them in one place. And I don't know if that was actually useful and people were using it, or I don't really remember if I was just telling everybody to go to my damn website and actually got people to go for no real reason, because it wasn't good. But I'm sure about 10 or 20 people went, and I decided, oh, this is a thing that I'll just do, because people want to come over here, so I'll take advantage of it. I'll do something with it. So I do just some basic interviews. I think Brad Donkey was the first interview. I'm not sure if I did Paulo. I did Adam Hayward. And my favorite interview was Corey Ryan at the time. And I'm a fucking idiot for deleting the website. Once I was done with it, I don't know why I deleted it. Mostly because there wasn't that much original content. But when I deleted it, those interviews went out the door. And the Corey interview was really funny, but also really good, because nobody took him seriously, because he didn't want anybody to take him seriously, quite clearly. But he sort of did like a 50-50 joking and then actually giving some honest answers. And that's actually the side of Corey that I think everybody knows if you've actually met him. And that side's awesome. And I think the interview was just, it needed to happen. It was kind of cool. And for some reason, this gains traction, and I stopped competing, and I'm doing nothing for Square. And as I'm doing this website and it's gaining popularity, I tell Dave that I'm going to stop writing for him, because I'm not doing anything for him. It would be a waste to even give me a new board. So I either give him his boards back, or whatever I had left was probably broken eventually. And then I continue to do this blog, and it continues to get just slight more popularity within the Skim community. And another website, an external website named Skim Invasion, offers to essentially buy my writing. I'll just write for their website, and it was supposed to be a paid gig. And this was really weird, because on one hand, that was kind of the goal, to make money off of it eventually. So I thought I'd succeeded, but on the other hand, I could kind of tell this wasn't the best idea, because the reason people were going to the website is because I would either interview people and try to just have at least like one controversial question or something, or I would just write controversial shit about skimboarding in general. So now another website is paying me to write articles on it, but the money that they would pay me with is from advertising from companies. So no longer will there be criticizing of companies within the articles, at least within good taste, which is defeating the whole purpose. The whole purpose was just pure honesty, not filtered honesty. And I'm writing, and there's just not a lot going on, and it was kind of implied that I would be changing what content I'm doing. Just taking out all the fun bits, all the controversial, all the critiquing people, and generally being an asshole to the skim community, but with a sort of purpose of calling people out on what they're doing. Also, whatever pay was being promised, and I'm sure it wasn't a lot, but I never made a penny from the website, and eventually left. And I go back to my old format, but it just, I didn't have the resources to make original content. So that format, if you will, was just totally dry, just horrible at the time. So I take one crack at making sort of a small magazine type format that Derek McCacao was doing with Forever Skim. And of course that was horrible because I made it and I'm not that good. Definitely not on Derek's level. But I had included interviews anyway, so people were going to want to read those. So some people looked at it. It's fine. And then, in a little ironic twist, and this is right before the end of that website, which makes perfect sense now in hindsight, Derek wants to do an interview with me in Forever Skim Mag. And it was just supposed to be about the website, but I really didn't have much to say. So we were kind of spitballing on what to add to it because we didn't really do an interview. It was more like, it was kind of awkward. I write an article about my own website, and that was fucking going nowhere. So we took the philosophy behind the website and just ran with that, which was what is bad in skimboarding, really. And I also did, but then we kind of tempered it by also including some things that were good, and then we did the horrible, horrible format of top 5 good things, top 5 bad things in skimboarding. And unfortunately, this particular time was right when legendary skimboarder Jeff Gomez was starting a new magazine. I'm guessing he just released it, and we all got it, and he was receiving a lot of praise, mostly just for the effort, but the magazine itself was really low quality. So part of the article, I mean, there were 2 things that got traction in the article. Everybody ignored the top 5 good things because, of course, you would. Nobody cares. This is exactly what the whole philosophy and format is negative shit gets fucking views. Which sounds so bad looking back, but at the time there were actually some things that needed to be said. And another person I called out was the new owner of Slotstick Skimboards and just how he was running the company. So calling out an entire board company that's basically legendary in its reputation, even though it's under a new owner, and calling out a literal legend of the sport for having the balls to make a magazine. And I think a bit of the irony is, I say in the article, I know that I'm calling people out, and this is gonna be seen as stirring the pot and just shit talking, but that's okay, because that's what I'm intentionally doing that. We know what we're doing, and that's exactly what happened. A lot of shit talk. I mean, almost 50-50 shit talk my way about why I would even do that. Not like I run a board company or I started a magazine, so who am I to talk? And then on the other hand, the people who are going, well, there's a reason he's saying it, and everybody knows it, it becomes like an elephant in the room, but you can't touch it because they're basically both legends in the sport. So, hands off. But basically, it's a 50-50 reaction, and I would say overall, nothing really happened resulting from it except for me looking like an asshole, which is perfect because that means people will know how I really am. It totally makes sense. And so I buy an Exile skimboard at this point, and I actually basically stopped skimboarding within 5 years after this. I shut down my website. Forever Skim eventually shuts down kind of soon after. The magazine that Gomez was creating, I don't even know how many issues it did, that shut down. Also, I recently looked up that I don't know if Slotstick is up and taking board orders. I'm not sure. I looked recently, but I mean, they don't even have a website anymore. So that's almost shut down as well. I don't know if you can tweet him a message to order a board, but... And so that's basically my history as a skimboarder from Los Angeles. It's been about over 17 years now. It was awesome. Every part of it, even the shitty dumb parts that shitty teenagers do because, well, I just can't help myself. And I basically quit skimboarding the past 5 years, on and off, basically. I'm not even sure at this point, but I bought a skimboard again, and now I want to do shit in again, because I watched the documentary Shore Break that was made, and it was great, and I basically realized I just thought about skimboarding wrong my whole life, mostly because I was a teenager and dumb, but regardless, hindsight, I am bummed that skimboarding seems to be dying along with every other action sport right now, but I still think that it's the same thing. The good parts about it are just the same. All those things that I enjoyed for over 15 years are still there. And I should do something with it. We should do something with it. So, I'm going to try to do this podcast thing. My goal is to get two influential people in skimboarding at a time for a podcast. Because I don't want it to be a fucking interview. I don't want to do one-on-one. That's horrible. So, hopefully 2 people at a time. I wrote down a wish list of who I want. you should obviously go into the comments, write down who you want. I don't know if anybody will take this offer. Driving up to LA to do a pointless podcast nobody's going to listen to. But with that said, the first people I wrote down on my wish list to talk skimboarding on the first episode of this potential podcast is TIMMY GAMBOA and Nathan FLANAGIN. Both great Skimboards writers. Why did I pick them? Because when I look at their Instagram accounts, I see that exact thing that I was just saying. That good shit in skimboarding that's always been there. Just the meat and potatoes of what makes it good. I see it in their accounts. I see it in their photos and their videos. And so that's an invitation. I'm going to message them on Instagram, I guess, and see what they say. Hopefully they agree. Otherwise, I sound like an asshole again, and then I'll have to change up who I invite. But hopefully they come in. I think that would be a great first episode. Plus, I want that stoke from my first episode because it's been a while since I've been in the community, I guess. So that's the invitation. Episode 1. TIMMY GAMBOA, Nathan FLANAGIN. I'm going to message you guys. Hit me back. We'll see if we can get this going. And I have a lot more on my wish list, and I'm sure anybody writing in the comments has their wish list too. So share that with me. I'll compare it to mine, and maybe that'll affect the schedule I try to set for invitations. All right, this was the prologue to the Skimboarding podcast with Teddy Parker. Why the fuck did you just listen to me talk about my whole life? Jesus Christ. Yeah, here's to episode 1 coming in the future, hopefully. See you guys later.